Well, 4% of Americans say they've had a near-death experience. And tonight, in a special report, 2 people share their near-death stories.
It's almost 1 in 5, that 4%. And these people hope they can offer comfort and peace to people who have lost loved ones. Christian Brown from our sister station WTVG has the story.
Lisa Schuster's son is Army Specialist Matthew Drake. He was critically wounded in a suicide car bombing in Iraq in 2004. 5 soldiers were in the vehicle, Matthew, the sole survivor. He underwent brain and skull surgery and nearly died while suffering a stroke during recovery. His mother says 6 months later, Matthew remembered a near-death experience.
And we happened to be sitting at the VA hospital, and I said something to him about, well, I'll have to just talk to God about that, honey. And he hesitated, and he said, hey, I think I met him. And I looked over my shoulder thinking it was somebody in the VA that he recognized, and he said, God, I did. I met him.
Lisa says at the time, Matthew had short-term memory loss, 30 seconds to a minute. He wasn't able to create or maintain a storyline.
Asked him, I said, Matthew, you just said you met God. And a typical response would have been, I did. But he said, with certainty, I did. And he told me that I wasn't done here, that I needed to come back and help people. And he said, and then he touched my hand, and it was like, whoa.
Matthew described God to his mother as being light with colors of white, yellow, and gold. He also said there were colorful angels there, and that 2 soldiers who died in that accident were there with him.
If I would mention Mike and Jonathan, I said, we would kind of say, well, you need some extra help today, buddy, whether it's physical therapy, whatever he was struggling with. And I'd say, come on, Mike and John, help Matthew. And he'd say, they're right there.
Lisa says Matthew does not remember his near-death experience. University of Toledo professor Dr. Linda Smith teaches workshops about the afterlife. She educates counselors, hospice workers, and other hospital personnel on how to prepare for end-of-life issues.
I definitely believe that there is a survival of consciousness independent of the body. I do think there's very strong evidence of that, totally independent of any religious beliefs. The doctors will say, I can't explain that, that's impossible, but it happened.
But meet Virginia neurosurgeon Dr. EBEN Alexander. While on a family trip, he was struck with severe meningitis and spent 7 days in a coma. He writes about his near-death experience in his New York Times bestseller, Proof of Heaven. During his experience, Dr. Alexander says he encountered an angel. He would later learn it was his biological sister, Betsy, who had died. The 2 had never met.
I thought it was too real to be real. I tried to write it up as a neuroscientific report, explain it as brain-based, and I go into those hypotheses in my book. And because I had such a severe meningitis, I was able to prove that, in fact, it did not happen in my brain. It was very real.
Dr. EBEN Alexander considers himself a Christian, but this taught him something about his faith.
I also came to see in my journey that there is no, one true religion, as long as they talk about an all-loving, infinitely powerful God that loves us more than we love ourselves, and that teaches compassion, loving others, forgiveness, and that God loves all of God's creation.
Absolutely want to do that.
Okay.
As for Matthew Drake's mother, Lisa, she says she knows there are skeptics out there, but she shares her son's story anyway.
So I understand it creates conflict, but if nothing else, it creates conversation. And I feel that's always good. And at very best, it gives comfort and peace.
That death may not be the end for us. Christian Brown for WENY TV News.